I'm already started. Yeah, I heard that one. My name is Stephen Brown, and I am the producer of Baltimore City airs every other Friday on the weekday. It is a podcast about the history of various landmark communities and locations in Baltimore City, and we are so glad that we think are going to be very, very beneficial to all of us. Listening of Muslim presence in Baltimore City and the issues that the community faces and various ask any questions that you would like to turn it over to my
So again, thank you all so much for coming out this evening. I'm really excited to have an amazing panel with us today to talk about our topic today. So as many of you guys may know, Islamophobia is a hot topic that seems to be all over the news. It's on the side where we're talking about something that's been impacting groups of people for a really, really long time. And I think this conversation is particularly important to me. Opportunity of being a part of different Muslim communities across the city for the past several years now. And I think it's interesting to talk about what that Muslim community looks like here in the city. Asking hard questions about these segregation of the Muslim community across the world. Segregation look like in the city. And how do we create that one community that's supposed to extend from the Ummah? And there is this segregation. Go ahead and turn it over to our panel right now. I'm really excited to introduce Sadiq. He's going to be our moderator, and he'll introduce a little bit about himself, and then we'll learn a little bit more about our panel. Big round of applause.
Good evening, Assalamu alaikum. Good to see everybody. So my name is Sadiq A. I'm honored and excited to be a moderator for this discussion for this evening. My second home, so I grew up in Washington, D.C. and ended up in Baltimore via attended college at Morgan State University, which ironically was my first introduction to the Islamic community here in Baltimore. Was on the campus of Morgan State. I have such fond memories of that experience. So again, here in Baltimore, being able to call Baltimore my second home. I run a training organization called Millionaire Managers Academy. So we focus on youth development and leadership development for young people, as well as professional development for educators and youth workers. I'm also an author, a guest lecturer, and college professor over at College State. So here and again, facilitate this conversation. So I guess we'll go ahead and start introducing the panelists. So up to my left, your right. So one of my good friends, Brother Tariq, to the right. Tariq is a Muslim essayist and poet born and raised in West Baltimore. Tariq was first team all-state, all-city athlete in the sport of football with a master's degree. Recent MSW recipient. Tariq shared his spirit of lifelong change agency. Also, is a recent author, first-time author as well. So we're excited to have Tariq. Left, the sister Naima Sharif, who's also born and raised in Baltimore. Naima is a wife, a mother, also an event producer and founder of In Life Incorporated and Infinite Productions, LLC, provides arts-based social events, curated events such as the Art of Ramadan, Artist Showcase, Day One Dinner, and also concert cruise. Developing community enrichment programs and events for a nonprofit, which is In Life Incorporated. So, to my right, we have Sister Aisha Aula. So Aisha was born and raised in my hometown as well, Washington, D.C. Aisha finished her bachelor's degree in Baltimore, right here in the city. Congratulations, recent, very, very good. So she's been involved in the Baltimore area for almost 2 years, and Caroline is promotes mental health awareness to build a bridge for creatives, further serving as a platform promoting self-expression and therapy. So welcome to her. Also to my right, Brother Khalil Ismail, vocalist from Baltimore, an artist. He has roots also in Washington, D.C., so you guys can see a theme here. Washington, D.C., just in case you guys didn't know, is also the birthplace of one of Khalil Ismail's musical inspirations, Marvin Gaye. So Khalil's fusion of hip-hop and R&B is inspired by John Legend, Maxwell. I listen to a lot of his music, and I'm always impressed when I do so. So we welcome Brother Khalil to the panel. And last, certainly not least, we have Brother Muhammad Abdul, public health major, rising senior at Johns Hopkins University right here in Baltimore. I'm a rising senior, so he's headed towards the finish line as well. Can you guys see the excitement on his face? Of the Baltimore chapter of United Muslim Relief, which is a 501c3 humanitarian organization that was established out of the 2010 Haiti earthquake. So apart from his local activism, Muhammad's interested in Muslim American spaces. It sort of comes along with reconnecting ourselves with the true teachings of Islam, which again, reconnect our single divine community. So excited to have everybody. Give them a round of applause. So first question. Start off. So we have various groups. City of Baltimore, some of us were born here, some of us weren't. Over to my right, I used to be, don't give me. Muhammad, and as in Dublin, Baltimore, sort of what was your first experience with the Muslim community here in Baltimore? What were your first impressions?
I moved to Baltimore after middle school, and actually the main reason I came to Baltimore was for swimming. I used to be part of the North Baltimore Athletic Club. Okay, so I attended a boys' school. But as far as in terms of here, I would say I was mostly affiliated with Baltimore. And for me, it was shock that when I came to Hopkins, I didn't even know there were our mosques in there. And the like, yeah.
We'll start off on this side. We'll kind of skip around a little bit. So again, same question, same similar vibe. Being a native of Baltimore, what is your earliest memory of a mansion here in the city? And again, what are your impressions?
So like my father, he co-founded the first university on the street from North Avenue. He's also from the school there. My first experiences of just Islam coming to Baltimore and Islam in Arabic stuff. The segregation, I didn't grab it, but when I was growing up, ISD, it was like a warrior of just cultures and we're not like them, those type of stuff. stereotypes, and we didn't really cross once we grew up. Maybe had a story or something of that nature, but we pretty much stayed in our own silos. So, you know, a lot of Muslims who didn't look like me, like was into college and stuff.
Come back to this side, brother Khalil Ismail. One of the DC roots. And how did you make your way to Baltimore? And again, same earliest memories of Muslim community.
From Southeast DC, I was about 10 years old. I came here first school, and my parents put me in ISP. My mother actually started ISP when I was about 10 years old, until about 12 and 13. So my experience was, honestly, you know, I had a number of, kind of more integrated than a lot of people would probably think. That's consisted mostly of African Americans. Americans actually been the people who attended, however, I do recall a disconnect. For example, we would refer to sometimes as the street kids. People when they felt like, you know, so I recall feeling surrounded by my parents where the inferiority complex as a result of the way we were referred to.
Sister Naima, you go with the question and you repeat it again. Should have gone.
Born and raised in Baltimore, right off of North Avenue, right up the street. But I did not grow up in Savannah. I was actually like in the National High community. And when I was at National High, it was so my parents actually started off in the Nation of Islam, and then in 1975, community work with Islam, with a lot of other Americans in the United States. National High, National High, they were pretty much the first two masajid in Baltimore, and from that, grew other. The community, even people from ISD, before it was built in the county, they would attend the National High. The other communities were, other than that, I'm able to travel and feel comfortable and know people, and especially pretty much the leadership in a lot of the different communities. So I don't feel, I mean, at ISB, I don't know as many people, but I think the younger people I can connect with, I do not know the older. But I attended school at Lancaster and at National High. And I very completely all my.
So, being at the University of Baltimore, I was raised in PG. Afterwards, went to community college in Howard. As well, like I was just kind of like ascending. County had different dynamic. It wasn't supposed to go to Baltimore. My last minute decision, I ended up being here, and it's so different from what I'm used to. I was at Baltimore for 2 years at MSA. Prior to being on the board, I was an active events coordinator and helped out with different clubs and different organizations on campus. Very minimal, but
I think we'll jump right in just in terms of getting into some of the meat of the conversation. I know we got off to a little bit of a late start, but immediately there's a couple of sound bites that jumped out at me listening to the different responses. go down, sort of talk about one of them. I think there was a consistent theme. I heard the word walls. I heard the word walls when Tara spoke, and I heard that sort of theme throughout those first couple answers. So I guess my question to you guys, sort of real or imagine initially, and sort of on those same walls today that we're talking about. Community from county to city. Walls. Whoever wants to grab this one first.
All right, I'll put this on. And someone who's imagining something is real. We all are a little bit extra sensitive on spaces. And Naima said I was also privileged to be in different communities, and so for me, I felt different and treated a little bit different. It didn't bother me. I think that, especially playing sports with for me, it helped me. It helped us a lot. I think the youth, we saw each other as the same. You know what I'm saying? And now we are here, and a lot of us, still interacting. That type of thing. We came into a situation where the older people, they were kind of looking at us like, I think they believed the media about us. I don't even blame all of them all, because the media is a very powerful thing. Believe in the media. I recall a time where one of the students who I related with, who was, people say like his parents. I walked down the street at a certain time, his parents would lock the door. My parents would say, I wouldn't do that, but my parents would. Angry and irate and mad about that, I feel is realistic. How the media works. And seek to understand it, come on the ground, or just be upset. It's exaggerated when we upset and don't see it. Right? So I think it can be imagined when we do that. I don't know,
Using that curiosity. Sister Naima?
Some are real, some aren't real. I think when it comes to marriages, I think we would see more cultural and social marriages within our community, but I don't think we do. So we'll play together, we'll play basketball together, we'll pray together, but we, as families, and I think if we did, that would definitely break down some of the walls. Separated, and it's not necessarily naturally people gravitate toward people like them. When it comes to religion, and it's when people pray where they're closest to. So on Friday, you'll see a lot of people from all over at Nashville High. They may go to ISD because that's where they move to. So it's not always just a convenience thing and a comfort thing.
I was in Islamic school, so I was conflict for a long period of my life, 13 years, right? Interacting with people of different ethnicities. So I never saw that wall here, and I was referred to as. And people, believe it or not, refer to me as that, and they're like, you know what, I think you're never going to understand our culture, the way we behave. But I'm like, I make an active effort to do so. It's very much so there. It's very much concrete over time, and I feel like that we as a community need to gravitate towards making this active changes to break down that wall. A little bit more united, and that has
She's good for now. So let's continue. So we're talking walls, okay? And we're talking earliest experiences here in the Islamic community, the Muslim community here in Baltimore. So combined with our thoughts and our dealing with the laws against either real or perceived experiences, how do you guys think that those earliest experiences, and again, as we've gone from little people like her size to like big people, experiences shape you guys overall in the Islamic community as a whole? Sorry, let's hear from you.
I think that's a tough question. Because I think the amount of information about Islam people that we have is really like shifting how we look at each other. So right now, look and talk to somebody from Minnesota issue, and they have an entirely different experience than Baltimore. Look in South DC and go there, like they still have like a real type of vibe with them, and it's really challenging. That's my cohort to really decide which institutions they're going to match themselves with, which institutions they're going to try to build, and really from the cable to how the world is changing around that we're going through. The biggest thing that probably shaping us because seeing the good and the bad of all our institutions going up. And we have to decide, I'm 28, so like I have to decide now whether you're going to build, whether you're going to add on institutions, whether you're going to grow. I say to myself, under my space, when you feel you go out and every year that you don't particularly institutions, because that will determine the heart of the communities and stuff like that. I think that because tomorrow something, you finally might do us all. It's happening every hour, every hour.
I mean, for me, it shaped my experience. I think it shaped me today a lot. My experience is younger because I went to 5 different schools, and every school was probably different schools. Thought one of the schools I went to even college prior. And the one thing that I realized as I got older was, okay, everybody is saying we are the way, and those over there do not have the answers. Then I can say, okay, all right, these are all men, right? These are all men, and they're all saying they're coming from rules and scriptures that they follow. The one thing that I saw that everyone said that they agreed upon was the Quran. So for me, I'm very much where he said he's coming from, where I'm not really in a space aligning myself with one group. I will align myself with people who are trying to invest to follow the Quran. Different groups of people, and one of the things that our mutual friend Mujahid, as we know, he just he put together the messages for a unified Eid. Working on that, some of it's hard, some of it's not, and that's where I am. I just want to help Muslims, and if you're trying to, actually, the more you try to pull me into the group and say that you have your own way, that's where I'm not going. And the reason why is because of my experience younger. Everybody says the same thing. So how do we know?
I think that's an excellent concept, especially in the context of us going towards with the thought in mind that myself here, I'm cutting myself off from the rest of the community. And in some cases, that is almost what leadership in certain, once upon a time anyway, that was almost the thought, that was almost the intention.
Yeah, so basically I think I was younger, I never even thought of that. I didn't even know about, the different schools of thought, different methods, different in certain things. I didn't even realize there was such thing as like a Pakistan community or a Bengali community. To me, that was a shock. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what I realize is people in positions of leadership, whether it's for the conventions or the mosques or whatever, what they say goes. And for a lot of people, and I would say the majority and the young people, it's much more flexible. It's much more.
I think you all made some excellent observations, just sort of in growing up from seeing things change now. That being said, what are some of the specific changes that you guys can sort of speak to that you've seen? You've been here for 2 years or 1 year or your entire lives. What are some of those changes that you guys have seen? What are some of the specific indications of those changes?
Yes. A lot of my friends that I met later, but a lot of my best friends, they were my best friends now, but I didn't know them growing up, and they were right up the street. It was because at that time, the leadership of the masjid would not allow their children to learn. They thought that we were just not listening. So what has changed between now is that I see all the children who visit me, and there's
So what I was mentioning to those earlier is that throughout the relatively South Asian just a couple of minutes down the street. And unfortunately, there are some mosques and community centers that have changed the sense of their mentality and the way that they think and the way that they, go about certain things. With time, personally, I feel like I've definitely grown to see a more in regards to the community, in regards to the way that we approach certain things. With the PGMA and land to Baltimore, it's constantly changing. You don't see those changes immediately happening, but you see the impact as a consequence later on.
I see it changing because I think that the Islamophobia piece is forcing us to integrate and talk to each other and spend time with each other. I can really more speak from the African American experience and say that people are still, surprised. Sometimes, I hate to say it, but people are still surprised that African Americans have intelligence. Like, it's almost like when you say something, it's like, oh, okay, he's like this, no, this is normal. Like, African American people tend to be people who don't, to tell everybody all they know, they're just trying to live their life and raise their kids and stuff. They do it so much in their DNA. So I think now the whole thing where they're now seeing that what happened to us is now happening to everyone else from real conversations. And now people can see us more as human beings as opposed to just we are doing favors for in terms of giving them this time. Orientation, and I think part of the issue that we had younger growing up is that a lot of the people who came into Orthodox Islam as African Americans, they were taught this Islam from the perspective that all of your culture is nothing. It's fine. Your culture, everything of your culture is far, period, point blank. We had, and we believed it because we were dealing with we were coming out from our own problems with our African American experience. So now, the issue, they're like risk, they're looking back at our history and like, wait a minute. Part of it is just that we're always forcing people, and that's what you need to have happen. You need to spend real time with each other, but they don't have real conversations, break bread, do things.
So, going off that, I think that you have a song. I mean, one of the good things we have a song is the other things. I think for us as non-African Americans, it's even more imperative. 400 plus years of slavery and toil and whatnot, you know. So we can learn from that, and we can perfect from that, if that makes sense.
The immediate thought that I have is, as we talk about change, we see, change as being one of the toughest things to do, right? Because being comfortable, and change is one of the most uncomfortable things to be do. So I guess my quick question to you guys, my short question to you guys, is this change that we sort of seen be fought, right? Again, as we grew up in these different communities, the willingness to change now, is that more of a generational thing? Or is that more of a consciousness of thought thing? That our willingness potentially as younger folks, right? Maybe this audiences, is that a new consciousness?
Immigrant was saying their own culture that they were bringing, and now we all unified based on we all share a common American culture, and so we're able to have conversations and feel connected. So,
That's fine. Yeah, thoughts? Or again, consciousness, just a shift in consciousness.
So the first point I would say is that because being racialized as brown was attempted to be racialized as brown for like mainstream media, intellectuals. They want to do that. One of the craziest things after San Bernardino, they brought on American Muslims, like all across the screen. The next thing you know, racialized as brown on the Today Show. I was talking to my wife and I was like, they should have brought Muslims from Texas and cowboy boots and all of that, just to throw them off. Just to be like, they're not the only Muslim people that. And I think because that is happening, you see like the attacks on Sikhs and stuff like that. We see a turban. Because some of those communities are being otherized. It's just like doing Reconstruction when the Klan came in. Had to start kind of peacocking and strutting about themselves and about their worth. Like now with that, you have people being unapologetically black, unapologetically Arab, and you see like the 18-year-old crowd. They might still have their own issues and stuff, but they are serious about owning their own, particular worth. That may be generational, just because I'm looking at history. There's always a rise up of people, and then people go back to the same status quo. For progress, we're riding in them, and hopefully people can benefit from it. Consolidated wins. We're looking at some type of entire overhaul. History doesn't prove that. I wouldn't want to bet my money on their equation.
Two youngest panelists, so I gotta hear from you guys on this one. Not to practice any ageism up here.
Skewed politics of ignorance just constantly in the news and interactions that you can have with people that you know. You definitely do see. Because
me growing up in that, 97% Hanafi, Bengali, Indian, and Pakistani community, this sounds really horrible to say, but there's a saying in my parents' community that we're all just waiting, it sounds so horrible, for like the people that are older than us to take over amongst. Unfortunately, that's what it's come to because they're so, stubborn and so stuck on this one mentality that they want to approach of doing things and going about things. This is pushing home, this tug of war between Generation Y and the immigrants. Really horrible and horrid visualization to paint. That's what it's come to. And I feel like with going on, it gives us more of a reason to show how similar we are with, like, Eric comes down a lot because in Baltimore, going to community college, I was constantly defending myself, constantly justifying myself. I used to wear hijab, I used to wear abaya, and I had to constantly, that I was foreign here just because I look a certain way or have a certain skin color doesn't, in any way, shape, or form signify anything otherwise.
That you're less American.
Exactly. Granted, I had the Valley Girl accent a couple years back, but that died down. But other than that, I wasn't very American enough for my professors or my mentors. Really saddening being said. I feel like we're being more proactive, finding different ways and strategies to really where we are with our fellow Americans, as opposed to revolting and being rebellious.
I'm going to give Muhammad Khalil. Just for the record, I think that every young person has, at one point in time, thought that. We're waiting for we might not have said it, but we thought that. We're waiting. We're waiting for somebody to kick. Muhammad Khalil, generational or giving?
Because I think they said everything. I just one point. I think that it's generational. I think what's happening is great. Because I would like to see where Americans that we discuss them as opposed to us are to show how American we are. I'm worried that it's contributing, not worrying or caring as much about who we are. That's really what I want to add to that. And it's not anything about what you're just talking about in general. All I want to add, I agree with it.
Just for clarification, by us, you're referring to Muslims.
Now in this state where we feel like everywhere, where it's almost like anything that's happening to us. So I don't think there's something that's not complex. Now, almost you see BuzzFeed videos, YouTube videos, where we have to prove how American we are. When truthfully, America is built of people from everywhere.
No one is American and everyone's American.
Exactly, and all of their cultures are derived from someplace other than America. So, you know what I'm saying? So the fact that we have to do this, what are we really proving?
He's a rapper. So he says stuff like that, just remember he's a rapper.
For me, honestly, it's a generational thing. I also think it's like a mindset thing. I think a lot like the older people, in terms of when you see the immigrant population, when a person comes from a different country, Asia, I think there are a lot of things that, in terms of subliminal things, in terms of the best messages of colonialism, and then when they come to America, are bombarded with that sort of atmosphere. America isn't America is hard, and it's easy just to say it's the older people. I think it really requires, even as young people and active, to be like, no, to sort of free ourselves from the colonialism of the mind. That was really abstract, but
that was good too. The colonialism of the mind. Bars. I thought those were excellent responses. There's some next level themes were pretty prevalent in all you guys' responses, right? A couple of notes, right? Colonialism, right? Or colonialism of the mind. Americanism. Culturalism. American, right? Black, West African, Desi, Bengali. Isms versus Islam. These isms affecting us, right? So again, culturalism. Israel, you guys both make it. We've seen that, especially as Naima, I'm sure you've seen it too, as again, a Black American, African American. We've seen that always been this stigma associated with Black culture as it pertains to sort of Islam, good enough to sort of be incorporated into the rest of the deen. We're required to wear a jalabia or musa or kufi or what if I could, but does a beard make you Muslim? These are, and you guys, South Asians have an entirely different balance. But again, American enough to your professional service. So, what is the impact of these isms sort of on our Islamic community as a whole? Again, like I said, colonialism, culturalism, ism versus Islam.
It troubles me when people say like American. I think we consider American to be white, and for some people it will never be American. Like I will never be American. I live here, homes and around all of that, but I'll never be completely American. I'm probably going to be 50% American. That for all our communities and people, immigrated here, to learn is like, don't be in the position of the wretched of the earth. Like, don't be in the position of black people. The lowest rank, you want to be so, you want to be kind of this whole American experience. It creates a buffer for us. Same thing we did with Britain. They had like people who were white, they had the colored people who were light skinned, and they had the dark skinned people. And they kind of used them, hey, if you want to be like them, so you need to act like this, you need to behave in this way. So when Bernardino San Bernardino happening, you have an uncle on TV saying we condemn this attack and we such and such. Shooting happens. You don't ever see any church, and they don't call anybody like, okay, 4 hours. Seeing right now is all of the terrorist attacks all across. So it's like this ascribing to people doing the same like with the respectability politics of playing into whether or not you find yourself trying to be like over Muslim for people, right? So it's like my professor has a problem with Muslims, lumberjack shirt and jeans, but tomorrow I'm coming in with free cookies on and sandals and all of that, right? And it ends up being this fake persona. America is to move the bar, like Jewish people weren't white, Irish people weren't American. Years from now, the bar will be moved over here. You might have some people that look like me that could right? But you guys have freckles, so it's like caught up into becoming, I think, now we have the opportunity to say, okay, Muslim in America look like these different communities. And once we say, hey, that's something that ebbs and flows ourselves, without trying to ascribe to the bar that's just, and I think, we'll be fine. Why this can't be something that is attained, if that makes sense.
I have a, speaking to your thought about ism, about where I see some of the thought leaders in Islam moving towards is everyone is trying to carve a whether it be Muslim American culture or European American culture or Malaysian Islamic culture, and merging it with Islam, whoever is the leader of that, they're going to be the superior party, and everyone else is going to be inferior. When Islam balances cultures out. So I think that we have to move away from one trying to create Islamic culture. Islam is Islam. It's a way of life, and it regulates our life wherever we come from. And so if we look at it from that perspective, and I look at him as more, this is a human being who has embraced Islam and Shahada, and his way of practicing Islam regulates his culture. And I respect that and maybe learn from that, as opposed to saying because that mine is superior, because I even see a strain amongst my own people, even where it's like, okay, you know what? As a result or as a response to people who have imposed their culture on us, we are now saying, okay, we're going to make our own culture. And now we're imposing that on people who don't necessarily want it to repeat the cycle. So we have to separate.
I completely agree with you, and I constantly go refer back to the communities I come from, because they definitely shape the way I think now and kind of I am today. If it wasn't for these three communities that I dabbled in, right, I wouldn't have the perspective that I have today. And specifically the mosque that I was referring to earlier, they converge Islam and the Desi culture and the Desi mentality so much to the point where it's so difficult to separate the two. And and I'm curious, right? So I am the person that talks back. I'm the person that asks too many questions, right? Because apparently that clears everything, unfortunately, right? So that being said, every time I would go out of their comfort zone, and by they I'm referring to South Asian, extremely conservative, closed-minded South Asian community who hold that kind of mentality. If I were to cross any boundaries, I would be barred for asking questions. Whether they be about South Asian culture, whether they be about Islam, and at the end of the day, there's no clear-cut answer because there's no such thing. And that's not what Islam is supposed to be. You're supposed to view it as a lifestyle, a universal lifestyle that each and every individual, whether you're Sunni, whether you're Shia, whether you're Qadiani, whether you're Ahmadi, right? You're supposed to see it as a lifestyle. And the one thing that unifies most sects in Islam, right, is the testimony faith, right? I believe in one God, and Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last prophet in that chapter. After that, if you have pillars of faith, you have the pillars of Islam. And that ends the Quran and the Sunnah, right? And that's what we're supposed to get into. Not so much, oh, you know, you can wear the hijab anywhere, but in our culture we wear it this way, so because of that, you are less than a Muslim. And of course, some people don't have the balls or audacity to say it out loud, right? But some people do, and some people think that, and it's really unfortunate because they want to constantly poke when we're supposed to move forward, and that's the most saddening and unfortunate thing about it.
So we're headed towards the end of this particular segment before we move into Q&A. But there's definitely at least one other question I think we'll have time for. I want to get you guys' thoughts on this because again, it's the title of this particular program, right? Is In Search of Ummah, right? There's a mythical unicorn-like unification of the Ummah, right? The Ummah. So I don't know, some of you guys might have seen like there was a comment in our Facebook event page. I thought it was a very interesting comment. I responded. We didn't get any response. I really hope that that individual would show up so we could ask him. But here's what he wrote. Here's what they wrote. Thank you for the invitation. But the Ummah doesn't exist anymore. It was demolished in the 13th century. Searching for the Ummah is ridiculous and dangerous. You guys, what are your thoughts on that? Let's go right in. But now you haven't heard from you in a little bit. What's ridiculous and dangerous?
I didn't know what he was talking about. I was waiting for him to respond to the question. So he put in with me, but you know, he didn't respond. And I'm still searching for him. So maybe one of the other panelists can shed some light on that.
Anyone take this one? Anyone take this one? Ridiculous and Ummah. I'm sorry, ridiculous. Exactly. Is the search for the Ummah.
I'm saying this for the first time, and I think this person in particular has just one idea of what Ummah is, and because of that, because of having that certain mentality and ideology of what it is and how it's defined, that's why that person is claiming it to be ridiculous and dangerous. Like you said, I really wish this person was here so we could clarify that question. But it's very much doable, and it's something that I hope that our generation could definitely move forward with. But it's definitely doable. Whoever you are, show your face.
So not ridiculous or dangerous.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, I'm going to agree with all you guys. I have no clue what that meant, but for me, it's so long as there is one Muslim in the entire world, there is a body of Muslims that exists. There's a famous verse in the Quran that says, you know, this is one Ummah, and I am reward, so worship me. You know, so it's an unchanging thing so long as there are Muslims in the world that exists. It's something you can't, even in the Prophet's time, peace be upon him, there were people with different opinions on certain things, and that's okay. It's okay to differ of opinion. But to consign one little myopic definition to what an Ummah, and even when we translate it into English as community, that isn't a good translation whatsoever. That's problematic. So we always have to go into these things with more nuanced approaches and a sort of macro view of, you know, what Islam, what the Ummah actually is.
Yeah, I'm not going to necessarily listen correctly. I'll say that way. I like what he said and Anna just said. I think we have to really constantly be paying attention to our history. If people recall, I mean, what I take a lot of, I guess, wisdom from is that when Prophet died, there was no, Allah could have appointed a successor. But instead, Prophet they left it up to them. And they voted, right? And then the first caliph, he led the way he led. And it was different from the way that the second caliph led. And really, the division started when people started saying, look, it's only going to be this way. And that's when the division started. And literally, it killed the caliphs after that. So, we look at that example, look at history, I just see it repeating itself over. You know, everyone has their own perception in their mind as to what that utopia looks like. You know, I know people who would have picked their favorite
So as we move on, we've spoken a lot about generational differences, again, as it pertains to searching for this Ummah. What are some of the cues that we can take that will aid us in sort of, again, unifying and searching for and eventually finding this Ummah? What are some cues from our predecessors that we can look to?
I would first say like diplomacy. So, Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, those who maybe not know like a lot about his story, when they made a journey because of persecution to Medina, they actually had that, locked in at the time, like the Medina period. And when he went there with his people, he had to become a statesman. He had to deal with, Jewish people, he had to deal with Christian people, he had to deal with emissaries from other places. And I think we can take that from, all the way from back then, right? I also remember me going to the school up the street and we made Mr. David, my father's boy. Was it Mr. David that used to come teach us computer class? David Slush, Jewish guy, right? Only Jewish guy I had known from like 0 to 18. And I think even through that, Jewish guy coming into very orthodox, black mindset, just the diplomacy that's going to take now facing what we're facing when there are people who are being, attacked physically, when there are people, even Muslims who are, acting out acts of terror upon other Muslims in different countries, and how America is treating us, Trump, all of that. I think it's going to take collective diplomacy. We can learn that from, our forefathers because they practiced that. Tariq Ramadan has a very insightful book called Lessons from the Prophet. And in it, I finished the book and I was like, wow, 90% of that was him dealing with other people and how he worked with other people so well. I think we can take that from our ancestors, because if we don't, we're going to be in heap of trouble, to just put it simple framework.
To piggyback on him, I think the Prophet example is the example, and for me, I would emphasize internal love, and through this internal love through disagreement. And one of the things that I really respected and loved when I read the Sirah and the history of the Prophet, I think that was his companion. Here's a divinely guided person who Allah literally gives revelation to. And every time he has an opportunity, he asks his companions what to do. And his companions all had different personalities, often very different polarized personalities. One was opposite of the other. And his circle often disagreed vehemently, sometimes to the point of passionately yelling, but they didn't stop. They cut each other off after that. They loved each other the next day. And so for me, because the theme is about Muslims and the Ummah coming together, we have to stop cutting each other off when we disagree or we're passionate. We have to allow people to be truthful and passionate with each other and still love them the next day. And the line is, okay, now once you start crossing moral bounds and there may be some distance you have to take. I'm not saying this is the case for everything. I think everyone should have a line. But at the end of the day, for most of the things that we are bickering about, okay, you're going to bicker about it. We all have different perceptions. But what I saw is that the Prophet, he got guidance from God. He didn't have to ask them anything. Yeah, he asked them what they thought all the time. To the point where sometimes Allah revealed eyes like, no, you're going to do it this way. You know what I'm saying? Because his personality was, I'm including everyone. Even though he knew, his example was, I don't know everything. Right? And that is what I get. That's what I say. I say it's just, we have to get past our own heads. Like, I have a lot of ideas. I think about a lot of things, but if I thought I was the only one with truth, man, I would be lost. I think that's what it's the internal love, because when you, and it's very similar to a marriage, when you can disagree with somebody vehemently, but still see they love you the next day. Trust grows. And you want to die for that person. But if they cut you off immediately after the first time and you just give up on the person, then you start dealing with the trauma of betrayal. And especially, it's hard to come back from that, especially when you got people from the outside who want to see us divided anyway.
So, thank you guys. Let's give a big round of applause. I know that I'm bringing a lot of thoughts and ideas based on what everyone has to say. Thank you so much. We now want to open it up for Q&A. So if you have a question, please come to the front. Say no one hand you the mic so we can be recording your questions while the event is taking place. So,
Does that have a question? You may say it.
we have a question on stage.
So, I appreciate you all conversation. There's so many, like you mentioned, there's so many thoughts bringing as I was sitting here. I want to address the common culture in Ummah, the whole situation. I guess I'll go with cultural. Some differences of opinion, but I'm sure a lot of people.
But it's still love.
They talk, well, I would have from my understanding, my research myself. We asked them about Ummah. And you look at the example of the Prophet, and the first Ummah, what it seems to have moved through culture, I think, influences, is when we say Ummah, you think Ummah. It wasn't the first one. It was everyone who thought about a higher power coming together, living in the same community to talk and reason with one another, to come to common terms. Muslims, Jews, Christians, anyone who brought any other schools that brought a higher power. So that's what we got to get back to that. We talk about Ummah, we talk about any human being that wants to talk about higher power. And we think that God could. So Muslims got to stop being Ummah means just Muslims. That's what we got to stop doing. One. Two, when it comes to culture, again, I love how Brother Khalid put it in the system here. Islam is like, not generic, but in Islamic culture, that's kind of interesting. Because it also talks about coming to common terms, and He made us, Allah created us different so we can appreciate one another. The righteousness of suffering the peace of the soul is placed upon a person in Islam for your culture. So I'm supposed to appreciate the difference you bring. I am American. That is a real culture. I was born here. Now we talk about the influences of the global system of white supremacy. That's what a lot of people in this culture try to simply themselves when we get angry. Some people try to remove themselves and make I'm not American. So we have a lot of people that have been removed from original cultures from other countries, coming to Islam, mostly African American men. You see them dressing like someone from the Middle East. But it makes them feel more connected to what they believe in. See, Islam. Because they're confused. So lost. That's not what Islam is telling you to do. Dress like somebody else. So when you see that, I think that's a misunderstanding to a lot of people. But you only see that with American people. You don't see another Muslim from Asia, so to speak, dressing like they're from Pakistan. You don't see it. They dress like that. I'm from China. I dress like my Chinese girl. I'm Muslim. They incorporate that in life. So when we talk about culture, I love to see people that remain culture like I'm American. Where I look is how I dress. Hip hop is a very big American cultural phenomenon. So being American is real and it's very powerful. So when you express yourself in Islam, being American is great. I love it. I had a problem with that coming up because of the situation we talked about. Slavery, we had my family coming up trying to like, hating what our culture came to. But Islam helped me understand that, I need to express what I've learned in my American culture because I can go to wherever my great-great-grandparents are from, and they won't accept me as being from me. They look at me as your American. I'm from Africa. So it's very interesting to understand. And Africans will tell you that.
American, African American come from being African American. That's your culture. So it's a lot of, I'll get over the soapbox. You asked it, but you guys have said so many things. And this is a conversation we need to have. Guaranteed. I appreciate you guys for coming.
Question. It touches upon the question that needs to be asked about whether or not it's generational or a conscious change. And all of you, if I'm not mistaken, said it's generational. So my question is, and by the way, since I've heard this, we both about that. We're waiting for them to move on to the facts. So we have that in common. But that being said, this is just simply a generational thing. And one of the things that I would credit for is they have a tenacity about them that is, that we know, it's literally power, that tenacity. We, as that younger generation, since it's a generational change, we have that tenacity.
And we'll pass the mics back to you guys, right? But and also is what powered that? What powered that tenacity? Right. I think it's a good problem. I'm not a panelist, so I can't answer targets. No, now you must get relaxed. Now you gonna grab the mic. Let's do it.
I personally think that's why we have so many new organizations coming up and that are doing things differently and doing things the way we want to do them. And it's not just in any one culture or we're all connected. So with social media, it makes it easier to facilitate that. And so we're traveling, we're meeting each other. And I think that we definitely do, because tenacity, they look a little different.
I would throw one more follow-up piece in there too. Not to put words, my big brother, right? I know him so long time. I almost feel you asking also what goes hand in hand with that tenacity is also focus. One of the things that would probably be safe to say generational thing is the attraction to shiny objects, multiple shiny objects. So is it possible for us to have that fortitude of tenacity, but with focus on building one thing, which to Musa's point, I think our elders, our predecessors in the various Ummah, they had tremendous tenacity and focus in building the institutions that we see now today. So do you guys have any additional thoughts on that? So the focus with the tenacity.
Yeah. I do actually. It's funny because I'm like going through this time period in my life where like I'm having realizations about my relationship with my father, right? And it's interesting because my father was really, really an intense guy, very intense guy when I was younger. Always, on us dogged about what we used to do team-wise and everything like that. And I realized something recently more that, makes me want to ask him more questions. I think I was a little bit afraid to ask him questions before because he was such a dominating authority figure. But he was building something into us. And I realized that, and this, I can only speak for my African American friends. I think everyone who's from a different culture will have a different answer to this. But for me, I realized that my father grew up in a time where there was segregation, like literally still. He dealt with segregation. Like I cannot fathom and understand the degree of trauma that goes with having to deal with someone literally being able to call you boy and get away with it, right? So if you know anything about the psychology field, there's trauma that comes with that. And I realized that dogged determination came from like, I'm not gonna let anyone break me. And to the point where even sometimes I think that generation bickered with each other because that stuff doesn't just stop at the other people. You know, when they say hurt, that phrase, hurt people, it doesn't just stop. So a lot of the reason why I believe that our older generation kind of doesn't allow, they don't unify as much is because it's like they're holding something together that they had to hold together when they were younger, and if that breaks, then everything breaks. So I absolutely believe that this is generational, but I don't think it's all generational. I think we can absolutely, we need to survey, we need to get video, we need to go get the stories, and we need to write it down, and we need to actually record their life and their experiences and learn from them. We can't throw them away because they have an understanding based on what they went through that we could never, just like they don't have an understanding of what we went through, we don't have an understanding of what they went through, but it's more than just them or even pride. There's a lot more complexity with them that I think that we would benefit from when we realize more that our parents are human, because we, you know, I think we all are coming into the stage now where we're realizing that our parents are human. You know what I'm saying? When you're younger, you feel like your parents know everything. You know what I'm saying? And so we have to kind of come back to that balance. I think it's both. I think it's generational, but I think we can learn from their determination. I think we need to learn from them because we should be principled. I think I would love to hear from y'all about this. We gotta talk about it.
First off, I sort of want to jump in with one of the kids. I wasn't sure what to expect coming in. Okay, figured it was going to be the usual suspects. You know, maybe some older guys from ISD, maybe somebody from Muslim Community Cultural Center, whatever. I didn't know what to expect. But I'm very pleased that young people here expressing their voices, young Muslim brothers and sisters who are expressing their voices about how they see moving the community forward. When I first moved here to Baltimore 30 years ago, we tried to put something together called Building Islamic Solidarity in Baltimore. And we're still working on it. It's a long way to go. But what I do want to say is that you don't have to wait for us to die. You don't have to wait for all people to die. There are places and spaces where you can come and be a part where you're welcome, and we want you. The one down in the North Avenue, down there, we want young people. You have community buildings, we want young people. So I'm on Facebook, we want young people to do exactly what it is that you guys are doing. To build a new, a better, continually Islamic community here in Baltimore. So my question for you sort of goes with the point that you just made. And you're right, I agree with you. It's two pieces that are not mutually exclusive. They go together. Because if they were mutually exclusive, what happens is you put me out. I'm older than that. So I'm not in the younger generation. But I still have that mentality of where you guys need to go, where you want to go. So my question to each of you is, not so much what I can do for you as you put it out there, what the older generation did as far as history and all of that. This is very important, institutional memory and all of that. But the question for us is, what can we do for you? How can we assist in empowering your voices, your actions, your abilities to do the things that you need to do to move us to the next level? That's my question. What can we do for you? How can we support, aid, and help you in moving us forward?
I think I actually want to take this one.
I think it's because I made my comment. I obviously can't relate to any other community besides the communities I have been involved in the past, but going back to that same community, because I was involved in the youth group and gave back at Sunday school and summer camps and stuff like that, I think the adults or the elders or the immigrants or whatever label you don't want to put on it is to be a little bit more accepting with the way we think, to be a little bit more progressive, but not too progressive to the point where we are completely skewed when it comes to the balance of Islam. It's grown that we're going to think differently, do things differently from you guys, right? I don't say you guys, but it's there, and I hate to say it, but it's very much there, at least for me. I can't speak on behalf of any of the other panelists here, but be a little bit more accepting the way that we want things done or how they go about in the community. Because there's a difference between tolerance and acceptance. Tolerance you can only handle for such a long or short period of time, right? Slowly but gradually that kind of dies down and that transitions either to acceptance or rejection. And then when we get rejected and our ideas are shot down, then we kind of give up and we go to a different community or we just I know plenty of individuals who just completely unfortunately love the holes of Islam altogether. And it's a community it's an embracive and unified community that can really make or break a person's experience. And if you don't have that, then that's another problem in itself.
So I want to first thank you for all that you do. It's pretty impressive. And also that's a really fun question. And even just asking the question is an amazing thing, right? But I think I would start with young people, right? I would start with people like myself. In terms of, and I hesitate to use the word progressive, right? I would stray from talking down to older people and criticizing them for the things they do, simply because of things I do and you talked about, right? In terms of the background, where they came from or how they grew up. So it really starts with the understanding of each other, right? What is 2010's young pop culture versus 50s, 60s America versus Middle East, South Asia, and so for me, it really starts with understanding how you can sit down and talk. And even just I was talking with my university staff and basically, what we came to is it just really comes down to one of the first things we can do is to each other and just talk to each other. And I think that's just a wonderful thing. It sounds really, really optimistic and really fluffy and idealistic, but I just think it's a wonderful thing. So.
Bill Cosby, I remember when Bill Cosby was running around before all the crazy stuff happened with him. He was running around basically touring and just talking and just tearing down anything that young African Americans were doing, especially when it had to do with hip hop, how people dressed and all of this, just on and on and on. I kept thinking in my mind, you got all this money, why don't you invest in some youth who are doing, there's a lot of people who are doing positive stuff. So instead of going on tour and tearing down everything that the youth are doing, which is really a rebellion to the system just in your own way. Support with because a lot of times the people who are elder have more the money and the buildings and control and own the buildings. Support the opposite. Because I remember there was a time I read where jazz was considered organized noise, basically not much more than noise. And classical music was the thing. Jazz was the thing that everybody was talking about was all this is nothing. Now jazz is considered a very high form of culture. You know what I'm saying? Someone like Bill Cosby endorses, and hip hop is, the thing that everyone looks down as the rebellious thing. And I'm like, just look back to when you were a certain age and what you were building, and look where it's come. And support us with more than just your mouth. If you have the resources, just give us the resources. We're gonna make mistakes just like you did. We're gonna make mistakes. Who hasn't made mistakes? But instead of tearing us down with everything that we're doing, see the good. There's a lot of good that we're doing. So see that and not just see it, but put your resources, your buildings, and your money where we don't have it, and it will help us tremendously. And we will be so appreciative of it. We will value that and try to, reciprocate that.
I just want to piggyback on what said, because I was going to say the same thing. Basically, we have so many ideas. I don't know if we have so many ideas. We're trying to do so many things, but how you can help us is by giving your support and financially and with your building. I plan events all the time, and the one thing I always need, and the biggest expense, is a venue. And I would love to be able to go to my elders and say, hey, I know you pretty much run and build this building. Can I please use it? So I don't have to go outside of it or make 2 cents because I want the money went to the venue. And it would just be a really, it would help me and my organization. And lots of people are doing trying to do positive things in the community if you would just lend that support. Most recently, I had an event at last year, which was like the first time in years. I don't even remember the first time. Last time I had an event at a mansion, but it was so successful basically because they allowed us to use it for free, and that has not happened in years. And so many people came out, and I was so happy. It was like one of the best events I've ever had. So just that type of support will really, really help. And also showing up yourself instead of just sending the resources, but be there physically as a support. So we can see your face there.
Your dad stepped out.
It's calling the council right now. Guys, I'm sure you see that. I heard what your sons were saying. I think like mentorship is a big, like a huge piece. It's like personal, like 2 years ago, you know, I had my first child. I'm thinking of how I support my family and all of that. So I'm like diving into any business possible. I started like 18 businesses. And I remember, you know, asking, it's not you, but Mustafa was one of the people that helped me out when you were sad when you talked about business. I just want to put that disclaimer out there. It's been wonderful. But I asked the brother after, like, Frederick, morning prayer, and I'm like, look, I'm trying to, you know, learn a little bit more. I need some mentorship. You know, I'm being straight up with him. I need some mentorship. Like, I'm out here swimming with no life jacket. He's like, yeah, sure, bro. And the next day he comes with the basic thing that you can do about small business and and I don't think he quite got what that meant, right? And I know what that looks like because I have friends of all different, you know, persuasions and stuff. And their mentorships means that, you know, their uncle or the guy that lives down the street, they actually put them in contact with people who have resources and they walk them through the process. And also, I feel like one of the best things that can be done is that you are making sure that you are connecting with youth in the things that they may want to do or be interested in, and then showing them the potholes from your experiences that you had, and being like, watch out for that, and watch out for this. And I think that's probably one of the most powerful things because, one, I just had my first kid, so I was in a very vulnerable moment. The attachments or disattachments that I made in that period of time are for life. So through that rough part, I've made lifelong friends, and I've also disassociated myself with people who weren't particularly there for me. So I think mentorship is like, I mean, I know a million kids probably who need a mentor in their life right now through Islam, through just the struggle of life, period. And I think coming down off the minbar, meeting them eye to eye, and saying, look, I'm just like, I'm here for you, whatever you need. And I try to be like a big brother to people who are more in the same spaces that I am now. And it feels awesome, you know, to be able to throw them hoops, you know, and stuff like that. I had a Islamic channel from the UK call me up and be like, we need you to come speak on Skype about such and such. I looked at the email and immediately forwarded to another young Muslim sister who's extremely like on it, right? But me just being able to do that is what I'm supposed to do as an old head to her. I'm 28, she's like 17. I'm supposed to be able to put her in a position to do that. And for that to happen, that means I gotta let go of the reins a little bit and not see myself as having to take upon the struggles. So I hope that makes sense, like mentorship.
So once again, I just want to give the panelists one more round of applause. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight. We have another event going on in the backspace, but before we part, just wanted to say thank you guys again for coming out, for supporting our panelists, for sharing your opinions, your experiences. I know something, especially based off of faith, can sometimes be really hard to talk about in public spaces. So your opinions, your thoughts, and contributions are very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So a little bit about this episode. Our episode is going to be airing on June 17th, so in the midst of Ramadan. We're hoping on gathering more interviews from folks in the audience or folks that you guys might know that would be conversations that were had that were touched on at the particular space that we would want to be heard, please talk to either myself, Stacia, or Allie. We'll also be taking some short interviews in one of these conference rooms back here. If you have any immediate reactions or thoughts that you want to contribute, we'd love to hear them. Even if you just have something that you want to with us and not here for it, we're very much welcome to figuring it out. So once again, thank you guys so much. One more last round.
Limited refreshment, we have some water right there, it's all warm, most of it is ice here.